Yo, what up guys, it's Flark and welcome to my ranged DPS Dragonflight star ratings video, where I pretty much go over how I think every spec is going to perform in threes and solo shuffle. Threes because it's the most competitive bracket, you can get glad from that, you can get rank 1 titles, and solo shuffle because I think it's going to be popping. I think that's going to be a very valuable bracket to add to the game, and I think a lot of people are going to care what does well. And of course, if these videos do well, and if you guys care at all, I can do 2s and RBG brackets as well. Maybe a combination video for RBGs. But hey, if that's something you're interested in, you can just comment below. And if not, that's totally cool. I have no idea. I have no idea. But again, these are predictions. If you haven't seen the Melee one, go check it out. But these are just predictions. So at the end of pre-patch, we're going to go into Dragonflight, then we're going to get the season start, then we're going to have a couple weeks of that, and the meta is going to finally develop, and it'll be very clear what is right and what is not good at all from these predictions. So I will do an update video where I pretty much watch my own video and then update the stars based on how they actually performed in the meta so I can see where I was wrong and if there's anything I got right. But yeah, that's my plan. Hopefully that gives some transparency there. But again, these are predictions, so let's predict. And of course, these are predictions for how things will be in Dragonflight. So that means no covenants, no conduits, no legendaries. These are predictions for the beautiful times ahead, not the crap that we're dealing with in pre-patch right now. Okay, that's everything. Let's get into it. So I think casters are going to be on the weaker end, especially in solo shuffle, just for the first season. But let's start it off really strong. Affliction. That's not on the weaker end, right? Lock specs seem to be doing pretty good because they can take a beating. They can take a punishment. They have obscene tankiness and survivability. And well, they got a little bit of a tuning pass recently to bring down their damage in line a little bit for Afflocks. They still really tank well and they still have a lot of output. All 3 specs do, but we're starting with Affliction. So 5 stars. Generally, Affliction is never 5 stars at the beginning of an expansion because it scales so well and requires secondary stats, but its tankiness doesn't require secondary stats, and that is going to help it be cream of the crop for casters right now, because going them is kind of a problem because they almost never die. And then not going them is a problem because then they can just rain havoc on your whole team, which means you have a little bit of a dilemma. And that's what I think is going to make Affliction so good. And I think I'm not alone in that. It should be pretty high in most people's tier lists, I would imagine. Good survivability, great sustain, spammable fear. It's Affliction. It was good last expansion. It's probably going to be good here with all the updates and improvements that I got from the Dragonflight talent tree. As for solo shuffle, same thing. 5 stars. Exact same problem. They can port up Z-axis, they can completely disrupt your go, they can tank your cooldowns, and then while you're getting your cooldowns tanked and they're putting dots on you, their teammate is getting to do absolutely whatever they want, which is generally kill your entire team. So Affliction fits right into any comp, by the way. They can play with melee very well, they can play with warriors, they can play with DKs, they can play with demon hunters for sure, they can play with windwalkers. So they can play with those in-your-face melee, and they can also play with any casters, just enabling them to do whatever they want, or doing whatever they want themselves, and that's just great for a solo shuffle environment. So starting things off, we have big 5 and 5 from Affliction. And moving on to Demonology, tentative 5 stars. It's a tough sell. Generally, they're underrepresented. Last expansion they were not. At the end of it, a lot of demo locks came out. They play DK demo, they play outlaw demo, they can play with melee, they can play with other casters, kind of like Affliction can do. So they have all of that power. They're a little bit more setup oriented, but their setup is so powerful with that big tyrant, all inning one player, as long as you can cross CC somebody else. They have a lot of ways to win, and they have the tankiness of Warlock right now. So all Warlock specs will get the benefit of just being Warlock specs. They got Port, they got Gateway, and they got high self-healing and high self-damage reduction, Absorbs, Dark Pact, Wall. It's all good stuff. It's a little tough for me to say this definitively. Of course, I could be very wrong. This might be something that I update because I don't personally play demo, and again, before just last expansion, it was one of the least played casters in the game. For PvP. So it's a tough read, but 5 stars tentatively because it's a lock spec and it has a lot of pressure and it can play with so many different classes. As for solo shuffle, I'm only going to dock 1 point, so 4-star spec in solo shuffle because, well, it's more setup required than Affy. Affy can just rot and run and dot and run and always do damage whenever it needs to. Demo really wants to get usage out of those cooldowns, and if It doesn't really sync that up with its partner's go, which is kind of hard in solo shuffle because solo shuffle is more chaotic. Then maybe it doesn't have quite the same kill pressure. This could be wrong. It could be a 5-star spec, and it's got the survivability still, but I feel like they're susceptible to just being trained or to just not getting as much out of their power windows as you need to be as scary as demo, especially if they're getting trained. But maybe that's all wrong. 4 stars is my guess for solo shuffle. It's tough. Now moving on to Destro, 4 stars. Certainly more susceptible to being locked down or disrupted than the other 2 specs. 4 stars may feel a little high, maybe other tier lists have that lower, but again, I'm just giving it the lock spec nod. It still has Dark Pact, it has that toolkit, and it can hit hard, so if you can shy people away from going you by being so tanky and your partner just going off and peeling for you and doing damage the entire time, it's very possible that Destro finds a way to get those couple bolts off and global somebody, 2-taps them, right? Just like they've always been capable of doing. Destro's high damage, but easily disrupted, and that's why I drop it down a star, but it's a lock spec, so I bring it up stars, and 4 I think is a good place for that. We've already talked about all the tools that lock has that makes it so good right now. As for solo shuffle, I'll just dock a star there and make it a 3-star spec, right? Much like demo, it doesn't have the ease of play that Affliction has, where it can just throw out its pressure on everybody and let things go for themselves. And it's easily disrupted, which means in a solo shuffle environment, when there's melee zugging at you and your healer maybe is not synergizing as well with your defensive usage as you need them to, you might just get run over. And while it has the tankiness of a lock spec, eventually that will run out. And that's why I believe that it's a 3-star solo shuffle spec, which is still not bad considering Destro is so focused on getting those big bolts out. And if they don't get them out, it seems like it would just be 1-star, but that's the power of lock right now. So 3-star. All right, so moving on to Beast Mastery Hunter. I'm actually not that impressed, which for most people is an absolute blessing. For BM Hunter players, it's not so much. But BM Hunter is generally very oppressive. It does its entire rotation no matter where you are, no matter what it's doing. It's nearly impossible to peel. It is very easy to get into, and of course, stun trap. So while they're just beating your head in with their rotation 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, they can put your healer in long CC chains that are easy to get off and very difficult to stop. That said, its overall damage doesn't feel quite as strong in PvP, and it is much less tanky right now. I think if you went BM Hunter, generally they're not easy to disrupt because it's hard to stop their pets from doing nuclear damage to you. If you just go the BM Hunter, not only can their pets be cleaved to death, the BM Hunter can be put on the back foot and die themselves. Getting into Turtle very quickly, from what I've noticed in beta play, their defensives are just not quite what they need to be to deal with the sustain of this meta, right? Generally, they would just kite out your burst cooldowns, maybe turtle it, and then you wouldn't have enough pressure to get more out of them. But now the sustain is looking to be a lot higher, and that means the second go, which might happen in as soon as 20, 30 seconds, I don't think they're going to have an answer for. So BM Hunter feeling a little rough in arenas right now, so a 3-star spec, giving it the nod because jungle is always so oppressive. As for solo shuffle, this is probably a very generous 2 stars. I mean, they can stun trap a healer and then do a bunch of damage and then kite the melee DPS or kite the or just line the caster, and maybe that's all really good, but they could also just die. And realistically, their stun trap go, if their partner is not synergized well with that at all, they won't have enough pressure to kill anybody, and then they could just die. So solo shuffle doesn't seem like the best place for BM Hunter, but I could be totally misreading this. They could be oppressive. They could just line all the casters and cut all the melee, and maybe it's just enough to win a game eventually. Honestly, I think that this one might be, make a mental note for myself. I might be going back when I do the re-review and saying, ha! How crazy wrong was I? But 2 stars is my guess. What's yours? Tell me in the comments below. Now moving on to Marksman, of course, and I'm going to give this a very tentative 3 stars as well. Casters and ranged DPS are really hard to rate. They are very polarizing how good or bad they could be. 3 stars may be too high. Marks is going to get shut down a lot. I think a lot of classes and a lot of comps have the toolkit to just run the Marks down. And if you do that, they don't really do anything. Their burst is really high. They do a ton of damage. I just don't know if they'll be getting it off very often. I think you just go marks and disarm them and stun them on their burst and go them and make them blow all their defensives and then keep going them with all your sustained pressure, which is something, like I just said from BM, that hunters are not very good at dealing with. They're good at answering like a go by kiting it, Master's Call, Cheetah, or Turtle. And then the second go, they're kind of like, oh boy, this is trouble, because they can die in stuns. They can just run out of mobility and then just die right there in the middle of the map. So that's a lot of bad things I said, which is why I would give it the 2 stars. The 3 stars is because Cupid, or maybe Jungle, they have a ton of burst. They have a ton of pressure. They can kill you. They just got to play with something that enables them to do that. Another high priority target like Feral or Wretch should enable them to play the game. I'm assuming like Freedoms, Bops, Sacks, Cupid should be a good comp. Maybe Cupid makes this a 4-star spec. All the things that I said negatively make it a 2-star, but maybe Cupid makes it a 4-star. And that's why I hedged my bets, put it right in 3. Those are my thoughts about Marksman Hunter. For Solo Shuffle, 1 measly star. If you cannot choose your comp, so you can't play Cupid and you can't play Jungle, then all of the flaws that I just talked about are in prime focus, because you can't really play with another high priority target by design, and if they just go you the entire time, it's not possible that I think your teammate can solo their team before their team kills you. I think you're just going to lose that race, and you're not going to be able to apply any pressure because you don't really have the stun trap sustained go, because you don't have sustain. You got to get something off. So while BM could just stun trap and press Cobra shot at the enemy team, Marks stun traps, but then does nothing with it, right? Because I'm pretty sure they gave Marksman and Tim, so they have that set up, but I just don't know what they're going to be able to do with it in a solo shuffle environment when they do not get to pick their comp. So 1 star there. And again, we're going to go back to this and we're going to see. Those are my thoughts on Hunter. Okay, moving on to Boomkin, and I think this is a very middle of the pack spec. It's one of those that seems like it's always insanely good or insanely bad, and maybe then rating 3 stars in both, which is what I'm going to do, is a bit of a cop-out. But I don't know, it can't be that bad. It still has instant damage, it still has huge AoE pressure, it can still rot people with its instant applied dots, but it's susceptible, and you're going to notice a theme here with the casters that are not as high rated, to dying. It's susceptible to just getting trained the entire time by high sustained damage classes and dying, right? Lock was really good because it's tanky. Shadow Priest, spoiler alert, is going to be really good because it's hard to kill. Has a ton of self-healing. Boomy, when it gets trained, it kind of has to sit bare, and then it's still dying, and then maybe it just dies overall. And generally, you would pair Fast Clone, the PvP talent, with that to clone the melee off you in a way that was almost undisruptible. It was like 0.1 second cast, right? I don't think they have that anymore, which means CCing the enemy team is going to be really hard with 2 melee on you, running you over. So, Boomkins, I just don't feel like they have enough raw output with just Moonfire and Sunfire, and everything else. I think it's going to be very hard for them to get up, because it's going to be hard for them to even get out of bear form. And that is why for Solo Shuffle and 3s overall, I give them that rating. Solo Shuffle would have similar pros and cons. They're very susceptible to just getting run over, but they also have big nukes, so if somehow they can get away and set something up, finally get a clone in the healer, and then just Star Surge you 3 times, maybe that's enough pressure to kill somebody. And all you have to do is kill 1 person, so that could work. So 3 stars, maybe a cop-out, but I mean, tell me Boomkin's 1 star. That's a hard sell. I don't know about that one, so 3 stars from me. Moving on to Ellie, and I think it has a lot of the same problems. Again, it has pressure, it has damage, but can it get it off? Ellie is another target where you can just put 2 players on it, a melee or a melee and a caster, and casters have those long duration kicks. And I don't know what the Ellie would be able to do. They have to run, they have to kite, they're going to try and cast something, they're going to get kicked, they're going to be dying the entire game. It is not a recipe for success. Now, you think, why don't you just pair an Ellie with a Boomkin? One of them's going to get to free cast. Sure. But is that enough right now? With the lowered secondary stats going into Dragonflight Season 1, you're not going to have those end of Shadowland secondary stats. Is that enough to truly solo the entire team? Because remember, my thoughts are that if you train an Ellie from start to finish of the game, they don't get to do anything. Like, their damage is going to be puny on details. Check details after the game. See if I'm right. Does that mean that a Boomy can actually just kill them without any help at all, just solo their entire team? And no, I don't really think so. Likewise, I don't think if you went the Boomy, the Ellie would be able to solo the entire team. I think the Ellie would do a ton of damage and make it scary, but I think you could mitigate it with walls, self-healing, and again, shutting out everything that the Boomkin does. So right now, I think those are 3-star specs. And when you start getting more secondary stats and your output gets higher and higher to the point where you just simply can't ignore it anymore and it becomes difficult to just say, okay, I'll let the Ellie free cast, right, the entire game. Maybe you can't do that anymore. Or maybe they can survive your goes a little bit better and thus get some counter pressure once you've run out of damage. But right now, Ellie 3 stars, and that might be generous. As for solo shuffle, I'm less generous, 2 stars. Boomy, I think, can get more instant casts off. That's why I gave it the 3-star nod. Ellie may sometimes just completely run out of damage if they're getting trained. They don't have a single instant cast to do, and they cannot affect you in any way. And in solo shuffle, that is going to be dreadful. You're starting right on dampening, which means you're going to be under siege from the get-go. And that's a tough sell. That's a tough way to win in solo shuffle. I think a lot of players are just going to run them over every time I've played solo shuffle. I've gone Ellie, and it has gone very, very well. So, 2 stars. Sorry. I don't make the class. Okay, moving on to Mage, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the biggest shocker of the video so far. Of course, I'd be happy to be wrong and corrected once the meta develops, but I don't think so. We're going to start with Fire Mage, 2 stars. 2 stars. Yeah. If you've seen my Melee video, you know that I don't think RMP is going to be the most oppressive comp in the game, at least for Season 1. And what else does Fire Mage play? Last expansion, tell me. What else? They play Rogue and they play Mage and they play Priest. What else do they really play? Unless you're seeing some multi-rank 1 BlizzCon champion player playing something silly, I don't really see Fire Mages doing much else. And right now, I think they're missing that kill you from any percent, instantly kill you, nothing you can do wow factor that they've had in the past. I think a lot of classes have a lot of sustained healing now as well, which will make it hard for them to finish off in goes, and their finishing power is pretty low after the kidney go combust ends. Not to mention the fact that they themselves will be squishier because while they can generally just kite your burst, put on a Blazing Barrier, kite your burst, and then you wouldn't have anything to do to them. Now, a lot of classes have multiple goes, faster goes, sustained goes. Imagine TSG on a Fire Mage right now. I feel like they would get run over. DHDK on a Fire Mage right now, don't even get me started, right? So Fire Mage, I just don't think it has that overwhelming guarantee win, doesn't matter what you do, I win anyway, ha-ha go that it has. And outside of that, what really does it bring? Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. This prediction's 2 stars. As for solo shuffle, what, 0 stars? I mean, fine, I'll give it 1 so we can stay with the rating. But 0? I mean, you saw the tournament, right? And that is not getting any better come Dragonflight. Mage doesn't do anything in solo shuffle. Its win conditions are completely irrelevant to what solo shuffle provides. It starts immediately on dampening, which means they're already under siege. They can't do a lot to you. Their polymorph goes don't really matter, and they have counter synergy with a ton of specs. Some specs want to cleave, some specs want to rot. Polymorph just heals them to full. With proper synergy, you can get around that, but there's not much proper synergy in solo shuffle, as you've probably noticed. And mages are probably the worst class in solo shuffle, period. And I do not think I'm alone with that. In fact, the tournament results spoke for themselves. Fire Mage, 0 stars, but let's just give it 1 for the graphic. Sorry. Moving on to Frost Mage, very tentative, 3 stars for Arena here. I do not know a lot about Frost Mage right now, but I've looked at beta, I've looked at what people are playing. It does feel like it could set up some cool Shatter combo-esque win conditions. And that enough it makes me not want to put it too low, because again, then it could play with the God comp, the Shadow Priest. It could play with Locks even. Frost Mage Lock was good. Frost Mage Destro Lock. It could play with maybe even Ellie Shamans, or just Warriors and Demon Hunters. Probably not Demon Hunters, but just, upfront Bruiser Melees. You know what? Windwalker Monk. That is something it could play with, right? And if you set up a Shadow combo and a Leg Sweep, well, that sounds pretty dang good. So all of these things, it has more upfront damage readily available. Frost used to be the definitive PvP spec, right? Back in the old days. It wasn't fire. And it kind of feels like maybe this meta and the way that they're designed right now is shaping us a little bit back to that. Maybe once the expansion goes on and secondary stats get higher, comps like Windwalker, Frost Mage or even Shadow Priest Frost Mage will come full force. But right now, I just don't think it's that tanky, that survivable, or that high pressure to give it like a 4-star rating. But 2-star seems too low for something that could set up some one-shots with those big bruiser melee or a God Comp-esque playstyle. So Frost Mage 3 stars, but in solo shuffle, just 1. All right, every mage spec suffers mightily in solo shuffle because its inability to develop synergy with its teammates. It's so susceptible to just be run at by double melee with dampening starting right off the bat. You kick every frost cast, they can't do anything. They're dying the entire game. First block, shatter that. Second block, dead. Right? It's very difficult to get pressure out as a Frost Mage in a solo shuffle, and it's very difficult to synergize with your teammates to find those win conditions. So I'm easily 1-star, and that one I really don't think I will be wrong about. I think that's what it's going to be. As for Arcane Mage, 4 stars. 4 stars. People have said this looks really good. Now, it's still one school, but their kiting is so potent, and they have those temporal walls where they can heal back up to full or move their character back. Arcane really does feel like it has the toolkit to live, kind of like a Lock might have. Not the survivability, not the tankiness, but just the toolkit to live. As long as they're alive, it doesn't really matter how they're doing it, and their output is very high. Now, it's not a 5-star spec for me, because I think you can still disrupt them. They have one school. But kiting and then getting into advantageous positions where you can set up a go in a leg sweep, maybe a kidney shot, or maybe just a Stormbolt, maybe anything to set up that go when you're 80 yards away from everybody and you're just nuking them from a range. Yeah, Arcane has the slipperiness and the burst windows to be a 4-star spec. I think so. And I think that's what I've gathered from beta as well. As for solo shuffle, 1 star. Biggest drop-off I've seen. I would give it 2, but I just can't. Again, all of that I just said relies on them setting up perfect goes, and perfect goes are nowhere in solo shuffle. I mean, you're just going to be getting trained, and yes, you have that slipperiness, but once it ends, you are susceptible. You have 1 block, no more mobility left. You're going to die. And without proper coordination on your defensives, like let's say you use mobility and then your healer gets afraid and uses their defensive cooldowns at the same time. Now you guys have literally nothing except for a measly block that could be MD'd or shattered. And that's going to be tough. As for synergizing with your teammates, I've talked about that word so many times. But in solo shuffle, pairing your burst in silent with no comms with their go at the same time is less likely than you think when you're getting run over by a melee train that doesn't have to synergize. They just run at you. And you're just running and running. Okay, I have damage. Wait, you already used your damage? Wait, what? Oh, okay, well, I'll try and do damage now. Oh, wait, but I can't because there's no sweep. Okay, well, I guess we lose, right? That's how it feels like mages will be playing in solo shuffle right now. And if any mages have a different experience, feel free to tell me. Maybe I have to bump some of these stars up, but Frost Mage, Fire Mage, if you guys have had a different experience, let me know. But otherwise, I think they're 1-star specs. Okay, Shadow Priest. 5 and 5. They got it all. Instant CC, stun, silence, fear, instant damage, instant AoE pressure, rot pressure, sustain, void crap they can put on the ground that CCs your entire team. That's even more CC that you cannot deal with. High AoE pressure, high on-demand damage, beautiful utility, self-healing, off-healing, void, vampiric embrace, void swap. They have so many tools to keep their team alive. They have so many impactful setups. They have insane output. They have Psyfiend. They have instant CC. They're very hard to disrupt. They're very hard to stop. You can go them, but if they use that self-healing to live, which they can do, you've wasted a lot of your burst on something that's now fine and is about to cross pressure you with stuff that you can't disrupt, because sometimes they don't even have to cast a single spell to get all of that damage out and all that CC out. Stun, silence, fear, and void eruption CC with the horrify effect. All instant and can be in a PvP environment. Very, very good spec. And for solo shuffle, that all translates perfectly. Just like lock survivability and instant effect on the game, Shadow Priest has the exact same thing. It might even be better in a solo shuffle environment because, again, you don't have to tell your teammate. Like, it's just stun, silence, Fear on the healer, and he's doing damage and you're doing damage, you'll find a way to get pressure that's nearly unhealable. And it's all quick, impactful, and does not require much help or peeling from your teammates as long as you're doing your class properly. Solo Shuffle, easy 5 stars. Shadow Priests seem to be so good right now, and they are looking fantastic going into Dragonflight. So 5 stars, both brackets. Okay, finally, Devastation Evoker. I don't know. I know that's a cop-out. That's the biggest cop-out of all time, but I don't know. It's a brand new class, brand new spec. We haven't had high MMR competitive experience with it. It is completely new to the game. All of its mechanics are new. I've watched it on beta. I've seen some other tier lists. I've seen streamers play it. It looks fun and flashy and exciting, and I can't wait to see how it develops within the meta. But I don't know. I don't have anything to go off of. It's not even in pre-patch right now. I just don't know. 2 question marks, 1 for pre-patch and 1 for solo shuffle. I cannot claim the hubris to be able to just guess out of nowhere how Evoker is going to play. If I had to, let's put in parentheses, if you force me, gun to my head, if you made me choose something, I would say 4 stars for Arena and 3 stars for Solo Shuffle. The Solo Shuffle is almost because I just don't know if anybody's going to know how to play with it. I have no idea. The 4 stars for Arena is because it seems like it has some really high output. And anything with really high output can find a way to kill somebody. I just don't know. I don't know what comps it's going to play. I don't know how it's going to play. So those are really, really loose guesses. Put them in faded parentheses up there. And that's where we're ending things. So, did you agree with my list? I'm sure there's going to be some differences with your predictions. Why don't you just tell me? Comments below. Tell me the rating that you believe it should be and the reasons why. I'll read them and maybe you'll persuade me. I really can't wait to see how close we all were with these guesses, especially me. I will say every single star that I got wrong, I promise, in the next video. But let me know what you think. Write down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to read every single one. Have a good rest of your pre-patch. See you around.